Everyone to the February 26th Extension Hot Topics. I'm here, Geoff Schortgen. I'm your speaker today. Courtney, do you want to go ahead and give your introduction as admin to the program as well?
Hi, I'm Courtney Schmidt, Ag and Natural Resources and Health and Human Sciences educator in Miami County.
So we're glad to have you all on the program today. This is a yearly series. We're two educators. Courtney is stationed in Miami County. I'm stationed in Wabash County. I am just an ag and natural resource educator. We came up with this Hot Topics program as a way to highlight different experts, different topics that are relevant in our state of Indiana. That doesn't mean you have to be from Indiana to join us. So we're glad you're here today. If it's your, you know, 20th time being with us, or if it's your first time, we really appreciate the participation of everyone when we're doing these programs because we as educators get to see more when we hear from you guys and your experiences out in the county. So, um, the subject for today, the dandelion, we're going to focus on some technical aspects of it, but we're also going to do some social aspects of it, some cultural. I want today to be kind of fun. Don't want anyone to be, shy about their stories because I know we've all grown up around the dandelion. So we'll kind of just jump right into it. Don't want to overshoot the slide here. This is going to be our first thing. The dandelion desire spectrum. This is going to be, there are no wrong answers, or we're not going to judge whether you like them or not. They're not going anywhere, and I doubt they'll take over the world. I did this because I wanted to see folks' experience with them and what they thought. So we have individuals who they want to keep them for the pollinators, for the recipes. They have no issue with dandelions. They love them. It's their favorite plant. So that's a 5. Or you could be someone who is, we got to destroy them all. I don't want dandelions in my yard. I don't want them in my neighbors. I don't want them at the park. No, thank you. Get rid of them. They are a weed, a plant out of place, and I don't like it. Or maybe you don't care and you're just here to learn something new. Or you're someone who likes to pick the dandelions when they're the white puff balls and make a wish, and that's just fun and you don't have an issue with them. Or you're a not in my backyard sort of person where, you know what, I want my yard clean. Not going to be mad if my neighbor has some dandelions in it, but I want my yard clean and I want it crisp and I want it to frame my house so it looks nice. So I'm going to launch a poll, and if it doesn't work, that's okay. But if you guys see, there should be a box that says what options you have. Go ahead and chuck that in there, and we're gonna take a look. Again, no wrong answers today. We're just talking about the dandelion. Ooh, we have got some great spread. This is awesome. Courtney, I will share. For me, I am a not in my backyard. Um, but I've also been a destroy them all or a don't care or make a wish or for the pollinators. I've been one of these, but right now in my life, I'm a not in my backyard. Where are you standing?
I am probably a number two, although my yard looks like it's a number four.
Your honesty is appreciated. So we'll give it another 30 seconds or so. It's just one of those things where when we talk about the dandelion, or when I teach about the dandelion as a weed or as a plant, knowing the audience, we're going to cover all aspects of this because, well, I don't want to get too far into it. We'll just let the poll go for a little bit longer.
We've got Mark in the chat that loves them for the bees, but doesn't want them in his yard. He hand digs them, so doesn't use the herbicides. He's fine
There
with
you
them
go.
in the neighbor's yard.
There you go. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll here, and I'm hoping I can share the results. I don't know if, let's see, maybe if I just do this. Can you see anything, Courtney? You're muted.
I can see the poll. I am a host though, so
Oh, okay. Well, here, I'll just break it down. So we do have a couple folks who want to destroy them all. That's good. We
they can
have,
they can see it, Geoff.
oh, okay, perfect. So you have the not in my backyard, 10, don't care, 9, 2, make a wish, and 10. Great spread. We're going to cover it all. I just wanted to, again, make sure we had a um, little bit of context so that as we move forward, I don't spend too much on one thing or the other. So, moving on. Just some history of the dandelion. Taraxacum officinale is the Latin name. It is part of the daisy family, so it does sit with the. And I'm going to be kind of moving around. I've got resources that I'm looking at because a lot of books, websites, things they say similar, but I want to make sure I use verbiage that we can all relate to. It is part of this. Is it the same family as the sunflower? Um, Tooth of the Lion, Welsh Dantiloo. It does have the strong white taproot. Some people say, you have that word, the lion, in there. It's like it's pulling or extracting a lion's tooth when you're pulling the weed. I don't think I've ever successfully pulled a dandelion out of the ground unless I've had a tool or was really wet out. So, there is some French. I'm not going to say that word because we're being recorded, but it does have diuretic activities. When I was looking at the history of the dandelion, where it comes from, that's something that it's everywhere, so it's hard to know where it originated. I do know that in no, excuse me, North America, it came with the settlers, pilgrims, anyone who came from Europe. So when I look at my resources, it just says it originated in Eurasia. Okay, that's a really big area. So is it Russia? Is it France? It's just because of its biology and adaptability, it's had the ability to spread basically everywhere. All right, I'm going to get my clicking down by the end of this. Latin name literally means a bitter herb. I apologize, I should say similar to chicory, which disturbs us, but also one that time was also at one time was useful in extracts, which may have been dispensed by pharmacists. So think of your herbs, different medicines when they didn't have the pharmaceuticals we have now. Any sort of relief that could be given from the different compounds in the leaves and roots would have been beneficial. I thought this is one of my favorite things, going through the different books. When you have profiles on the dandelion, it has a bunch of names. Priest's crown, monk's head. So think of the monks where they have, the bald patch where they had their head shaved. That was in reference to when, if you look at this picture here, the white puffball that has only a few sparse seed heads on there, clock flower, Irish daisy, cankerwort. There is a Chinese translation that I found in an article that just it translates to I apologize. It translates to English yellow flower earth nail. I thought that's just about right on the head when you're thinking about the dandelion. I'm not selling or promoting any one book. The Weeds of the Northeast, this is where I get my general information. If I'm looking up a weed, it has really good information on the life cycle. The dandelion is a perennial, so it comes back year after year. It is one that we don't see in farm fields because they can till. And a lot of times they're doing burn down spraying. We see dandelions in areas that we can't till every year or are not as disturbed. So I have a lawn background. Dandelions exist in the lawn because all we can do is mow or physically remove them or use some sort of product to spray on those for control. Think of your landscape beds. I know that dandelions, they have a large number of seeds. So if they can work their way through the mulch, or maybe you have a low mulch area, they're going to be able to take over that. They're very opportunistic. Uh, in terms of it being a plant, it is very successful because it's a perennial with the taproot, with the storage of resources in terms of sugar for regeneration. But it's also a very heavy seed producer. So it does a good job. Um,
Jeff, we
yes.
have in the chat um, a kind of a recipe from
Oh,
Dawn.
yes.
My grandma would get me to cut the leaves in early spring. This is done before the bloom head was showing. Grandma made wilted dandelion greens with a hot vinegar and sugar dressing. Bacon crumbles and sliced hard-boiled eggs went on top.
I love it. That is a great recipe. Um, the timing of it. If you want to throw in like, how were the leaves in terms of flavor and texture? Because I think I did it wrong when I've tested dandelions. It was later in the season and it tastes horribly bitter. So that early season leaf must have been more, um, oh, how do I say? Just probably tasted much sweeter. So, okay, the bitterness later on, good. We found recently from Farmer's Almanac said all parts are edible. Taproot can grow 14 feet. I had not heard that, but I
Wow.
believe it. I believe it. And yes, these things, throw them in the chat box. I do not want to drone on the whole time. Um,
We don't
awesome.
want that either, Geoff.
Thank you, Courtney. I appreciate it. I did, fair warning, for all you out there. I told Courtney if I start droning too much, just tell me to keep moving. So awesome, great information, folks. So we have the yellow flower, hollow stalk. It is a lactiferous. That just means it's milky sapped, like milkweed or spurge or some sunflowers. So similar species, chicory, common cat's ear, and western salsify.
We have a cousin makes dandelion jelly. Very mild flavor, pretty pale yellow color.
Yes,
I would love
oh,
to
that
try
sounds
that.
good.
Hmm.
I have a question. What if you did a dandelion jalapeno jelly? Not too much jalapeno, but that sounds tasty.
Hmm.
We'll put it in our office addresses. You can send us a sample. Um, moving on to the seedlings. So this top right image was taken. I used to work at the Purdue University Turf Grass Center, and we did collect seeds. So you can see there's a petri dish. They're fairly large, so they can overwinter and survive in the soil and not germinate until conditions are correct or proper for them to germinate. This bottom right photograph here, those are actually the dandelion seedlings. So unlike the adult leaf, the young leaves or the cotyledons are smooth, and there's two of them, and they're going to germinate when optimal. At one point, and I have an image of this later on. I actually grew dandelions in the greenhouse to test different chemical treatments on them. So I would seed, and then 7 to 11 days later, you would have plants like you see on the bottom right, and then I would transplant them. These cotyledons are fairly strong. They're not meant for photosynthesizing so much as pushing through the soil. So if I could use the cotyledons to transplant to another spot, it wouldn't damage the true leaves, which are the solar panels, which provide the photosynthesis for that plant to get food. So they remain like this for quite a bit. So if you're thinking you're going to mow over them, they're going to stay low as those young plants emerge. Then they're going to grow basil at first. Basil just means it's going to grow out like a pancake and not up. We'll get into the flower and the adult. Young plants. If you see here, the top image on the left, those are young plants. They look like dandelions. They have that sharp ridging, a little bit of smoothness at the tip there. The image on the bottom right, that is a sample that I had grown in the greenhouse. So you can see the cotyledons, those smooth cotyledons are no more. You have that toothed shape along the center region of the leaf, a rib, usually down the middle, and then a lot of times we'll have this reddish color on the stem as you get closer to the crown or the growing point. This image on the top right, that's the book from, or that's the profile for Dandelions on Weeds of the Northeast. So I just wanted to give an image of that resource.
We've
And
got
then,
Mara Rose,
yes,
early flowers dipped in batter and fried. Greens after flower, boil and throw off the first water, then simmer until tender in new water.
very nice. Now I know Mara's from Wabash, so if you want to have a cooking class, maybe we could do that for a demonstration.
Yeah,
Because I
Mara, we
know
know you. Bring that to the next one.
the other thing, one good thing that came out of COVID, a lot of people were going back to old recipes. So the fried dandelions, dandelion wine, like people were kind of going back and revisiting those because I mean, what else could you do? Here's a nice close up of the flower. It does have a very nice yellow color. If you look closely, you can see all the individual anthers that will be pollinated, that will eventually turn into a seed. It is a cool season perennial, so it can survive down south, closer to the equator, but it does like the seasonal cooling and warming. With that deep taproot, it can survive very tough conditions. It is more drought tolerant because of that taproot that, as was mentioned, could go down at least 14 feet. So, or as far as 14 feet. I'm probably, yeah. So the survive through the conditions, a lot of times if our turf grass starts to go dormant in the summer, the dandelions will be fine for a more extended period of time because they have access to that deeper water. There we've got it, the taproot, that son of a gun that makes it so successful. I have never tried a root of this before, and I don't know many who have. That's something where we as Purdue Extension educators, I cannot, how do I say this properly? We have to follow safety rules and guidelines. So that's something where, in terms of ingesting, we wouldn't want to recommend anything that isn't safe. That would be on your own terms that you do that. So you have the crown here on the left of the photo. That's probably one of the most important parts of the plants. They do a lot of their growth. That's where they're going to have the growth of the leaf, the shoots up, and then the roots down. They do have their advantageous roots as well. This is where they're going to get some water and some anchoring, but all in all, a very well adapted root system. All right, who thinks they
Deb,
know what's going on? Yes.
Deb Borse in the chat. Our friends make dandelion wine. It is super sweet. They also let some freeze and then skim the unfrozen liquid off the top and have dandelion liqueur.
I've heard of the dandelion wine, but not the liqueur. That sounds tasty. Because I've tried dandelion wine and it's very, I don't know how to describe it. It's sweet, but not like over the top.
Too sweet, Deborah says. Yes, we may or may not have taste tested some dandelion wine as research for this program.
Yes. So yeah, and I've got some more slides on that too. I did find an old recipe from my grandpa who his family lived through the Depression. And I'm like, well, no wonder you like this. It's like however many petals or flowers to an unholy amount of sugar. So, it's got to be, like you said, Deborah, too sweet. So these are dandelions that have been grown in perfect conditions. These were grown in the greenhouse. They have their leaf. You can see the different leaf arrangements here. This one on the right has been treated with a herbicide. The other two have not. Um, but if you notice, they have the taproot, but they don't need it because these were watered daily. We didn't let them dry out. When we're doing experiments in the greenhouse with dandelions, they're very nice to work with because we can, with different treatments, statistically find differences in root weight or root mass, so that we can get our research papers that we need for different experiments that we're doing. All right, the taproot. The dandelion can grow back from its buds on its taproot after being cut or after being treated with an herbicide. Uh, Fragments any position along. So if we go back, if we were to cut this into different sections and throw it in some topsoil, each section would have the ability to become a new dandelion. Another adaptation that makes it fairly awful if you're trying to get rid of it. The next few slides, I've just got some pictures. You can see that white root and how there's all this networking going on. That's just a big gas tank for that weed. If it's ever injured, or the top is removed, it's going to regenerate. There we've got our what we'll call adolescent dandelion here, and then you've got the mature one. I think I took this one back in grad school, but if you notice, I was able to get all of the root on the smaller one at the bottom If you look to the left, I did not get the tip of that root, so whoops. So there's a possibility that that could regenerate. Here we've got another network where you see more than one plant coming out of those crowns. When you cut a dandelion, and I'm not sure what the next picture is, but when you do cut a dandelion, it does have the ability to regenerate, obviously. Think of it like the Hydra from Greek mythology. You cut off one head, and then three more come up. So maybe that's what, I don't even remember which Greek myth that comes from, but maybe that was just a guy trying to get rid of dandelions in his yard. So here's an image. We artificially sliced the top of the crown off, and then you can see these buds that regenerated. I hated this experiment because we used um, they were like red toothpick bunches to mark where we cut these, but we wanted to count the number of original buds, which you can see in the middle, versus the the buds that came in afterwards. Reproduction for the dandelion. So the flowers, they're going to have a flush at the end of April, which is when I get the calls. How do I get rid of my dandelion? They're going to be very apparent for about 2 weeks. They're going to peak flower, and then they there's a way that people measure growing degree days with a formula on the temperature that we have. Having said that, dandelions, if it's the right environment, they're going to bloom. There's the flower again. Let's see. Now, what this is something I took a picture of. I was like, what the heck happened here? So this is vivipary. This is where a seed basically germinated inside the flower before it came through. I thought that was a cool picture, but that's something we see. Again, these are plants that are extremely vigorous in their growth, so you see some funky things every once in a while. All right, got to give a shout out to Courtney and mine's coworker Ed, who went down to Knox County back in December this past year, and he found a dandelion blooming in December. So if it again the right conditions, it's going to be okay. Will that flower survive and produce seeds? Probably not, because this cold snap came through. Um, However, it might be able to, it just depends on if those seeds are pollinated or not, or the conditions. A lot of times you'll see those dandelions growing near structures where heat will be retained through the stone or the brick or anything like that. So again, they're just going to bloom whenever they want. All right, I wanted to show this photo. At Purdue, there is a Daniels Turf Research Center. They purposefully seed dandelions to do research for different products, for different chemicals, chemistries, things. So in order to do that, we need to make sure we have a good population stand. And believe me, when you want dandelions to grow, they will not. If you don't want them to grow, they will. So that's just the nature of the beast. So each seed head has about 140 to 190 seeds. Some seeds are um, viable and will germinate right away. Others can survive in the soil for quite a long time. The white part that we see, the puffball, it's called a pappus, Pappus. So I misspelled it there, and they have different spellings in the different books. But that is something that I refer to them as puffballs. It just sounds better. Here we have the dandelion seeds that are matured and have kind of broken in the wind. You're left with that seed head that is blank or not having any more seeds. Here we have the life process of the flower. And there you have it. We can just sit here and watch this for the rest of the day if you guys want. But you have pollination, and then it's going to close up until those seeds are mature. Um, a lot of this is also dependent on weather. So they have the ability to close, but then as they're maturing, um, that top part of it will end up popping off, and then as those seed heads start to dry out, usually by wind is how they'll be dispersed. Um, think dewy mornings and wet pant legs and wet dog hair. So we can move them around as well. One more time, and then we'll go. Okay. So germination can occur at any time. But again, we have germination, meaning the seeds are going to pop up. Uh, any bare spots, when you have warm soil and moisture, they're going to germinate. They're going to flower in their second year of growth, not typically on their first. So, year one, when they look like this, it's all vegetative growth. But as they get their energy reserves up, they're going to be able to have enough in reserve to produce that flower and that seed. All right, so this is for all you folks who like dandelions. If you ever wanted to have a dandelion garden, when I was doing my research, collecting seeds was fairly easy. Uh, I would use the leaf blower function where it was a vacuum instead of a blower. So I would use that to go out and physically vacuum the seed heads off of those dandelion flowers. The nice part about these units is a lot of times when they're going through the engine here into and then later into the bag, it would chop the white stems and then the seeds would be separated. So if you shook the bag well enough, you would have all the white fluff on the top and the zipper was at the bottom. You could zip it and you would get a large amount of seed collection. These are, again, that petri dish of seeds. You can see the size there with the collection to the right. I will admit at one point, if you guys can think of a Nalgene bottle, I had probably 4 or 5 Nalgene bottles saved of seeds for my different um, projects that I was doing in the greenhouse. If you're going to collect seeds, this goes for pretty much anything. It needs to be dry, it needs to be cool. Dry is the most important. Moisture causes rot um, and fungus to grow. Should be sealed. Try to use glass, plastic, and then label. You're going to want to label things so that you know when you collected that, where you collected that, and then the spray history if there's anything sprayed there. Looks like should your dandelion vacuum be solely a dandelion instrument? I would say no. Those bags are when you're working with these seeds, as long as you clean your bag out, um, and I wouldn't worry too much about it because the seed is going to germinate into the plant. So your seed should be fairly clean. But again, that goes back to your spray history, making sure you know if anything was applied in that area before, or if you're getting a non-treated source. These photos were taken by Brandon McNally. He is the research technician for our one of our turf grass professors at the university. He gratefully took those for me. So you have your seedlings, top right, and then this is one of my experiments of the 15 that I did. So they do grow in the greenhouse fairly well. I've never planted on purpose dandelions out in nature, but if that's something you do, please contact me and I would like to write an article on that. And then when you grow them in the greenhouse, going back to um how they react, the soil mixture that we used was very sandy and we kept these watered so that they would survive. So they were happy rooted. All right. Dandelion is a perennial. What is a single dandelion life expectancy? Ooh, that's a good one. I'm not sure. Uh, I would have to look that up and see if I can find a range because I would say 5 years is easy, 10 years probably as a perennial. Maybe I need a pet dandelion in my office, Courtney.
I think you should
So
definitely try it on that
I'll
grow
see.
tower.
I'll see what I can do. Yeah. Do we have a question?
Sounded like Mara, maybe.
If not, we can move on. But anyway, their roots react to their environments. Again, these are very pampered dandelions in this image. Okay, for those of you not in my backyard or destroy them all, we are going to cover how to kill dandelions. A better word for kill is control. But there are three different ways we try to approach it: cultural, mechanical, or chemical. I'll get a 14-foot pot and put it in the corner of my office. I'll see if I can get like a glass tube or something. Maybe that's what I'll do. Um, One of the questions I get is, and this is uh totally valid. Why would you want to kill dandelions? I mean, what about the pollen? It's like, wait a minute. We have to think of the different uses, different areas that we have. If I'm a golf course superintendent, if I am groundskeeper for football, baseball, I'm thinking of safety for the kids. If I've got a football field or a soccer field full of dandelions, you're gonna run the potential or run the risk of more slipping, so think broken ankles, twisted ankles, not being able to pivot appropriately. I need good dense turf and I can't have weeds in there. If you're thinking of a baseball field and you hit a line drive to left field, as that ball rolls, you would hope that you could anticipate the different bounces. Well, with infestations, there's always that chance where that ball smacks into a dandelion or other weed, and that is going to um, cast the trajectory of that ball into a way that we don't know. So you're going to have, different face injuries. So those high maintenance lawn areas, turf areas, I don't want a dandelion. So that's safety reasons. Think of parks. If I'm going to have a park and a picnic, dandelions, you want to have more of that soft foot feel. You want to be able to walk around and, have that lush green garden. If you're selling a house, and you put two pictures side by side, the general public usually tend towards those yards that are green, that are lush, that are not, weed infested and have good densities, versus one that has the weeds is, not as healthy. And then think of your garden landscape infestations. So when you're gardening for vegetables and you have exposed soil, you have a flush of seeds, that's going to take away nutrients from your vegetable crop, as well as if you have ornamental landscape beds. That's when they become a weed because they're starting to compete for the water, nutrients, and space. I don't want them there. So I'm not saying that they need to be dead in every situation. I would just say try to be intentional. If you want dandelions, be intentional with it. So culturally, how to control dandelions. So in a lawn, you want a healthy green turf that simply outcompetes it. There are fertilizers you can put down that will help the grass, but it will not help the dandelion. So the grass simply outcompetes it. And if you pick the right cultivar, so the right type of turf in your area, again, that's going to be able to help outcompete those dandelions and create a more green, lush space.
So Jennifer McGuire says that gardenorganic.org.uk says individual plants may survive 10 to 13 years in undisturbed sites.
Cool. 10 to 13. I like that. Thank you. 10 to 13. I wonder how big of that's probably the 14-foot root right there. I did want to mention when we think of lawn care, we're looking at nitrogen fertilizers because turf grass likes nitrogen. Dandelions like potassium. So if you think back uh, to our fertilizer analysis, you have those three numbers: nitrogen, potassium. I'm sorry, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. The K, the third number. If you're going to fertilize your lawn and you don't want dandelions, try not to be adding any extra potassium. This is a bucket list of mine where I would like to go see. This is a study in the UK, and they have different plot areas with different nitrogen amounts versus different phosphorus amounts. So just with nitrogen, that image on the right, few to no dandelions. On the left, you have dandelions. So again, it's making the environment healthy enough for the turf to grow so that it can outcompete those different weeds. Here's some other pictures. Potassium versus no potassium. Left, we have the populations. On the right, we do not. This is a very old study. So I believe, I don't know if they're continuing on it, But again, it just shows the long-term things you can do. The more longer I'm in extension, the more I keep saying there's no silver bullets. If you want your dandelions gone and dead tomorrow, good luck. But there are programs over time you can do with that. So cultural, we control this again. We have nitrogen fertilizer here on the bottom. That's pounds of nitrogen per year. And then the y-axis is percent of broadleaf weeds. All this graph is saying is the less nitrogen you put down, the more weeds you're going to have. But then as you get to higher nitrogen levels, those decrease. So, but you have to make sure you have the grass there too. So don't think you can fertilize a lawn that's bare 50% of the area. You need to actually have the grass there. So overseeding might have to be an option. We got to go. I'm running behind. So. Okay, mechanical control. You can pull them. You have these different pick tools. And then some people, if it's on their driveway, they have fire dragons or weed dragons that they'll use, but that just burns them. I was once neighbor to a person who had smoked for quite a few years. And when they decided to quit, they ended up going out and using one of these hand weeders and they pulled all the dandelions. It took them a while. I think it took them 2, maybe 3 years, but that's what they did to kind of keep their hands busy. So, if you need to kick the habit, go kill all the dandelions, pull all the dandelions. We are going to talk about chemical. The best chemical that we have for home use is 2,4-D in the amine solution. It is most commonly found in our three-way herbicides, which contain a mixture of 2,4-D, dicamba, and MCPP. Um, Trimec. If you guys are familiar with Trimec, that's a big one. There is an organic option. Chelated iron. Does it work? That's a funny. Will it control the leaves of the dandelion while not injuring the turf? Yes. Will the dandelion be able to regenerate from that chelated iron? Yes. Because it's only controlling the leaves of the dandelion, not the root. 2,4-D will control the root. There are vinegar options out there, but any label that you apply to control dandelions, or anything you apply to control dandelions must have a label. Uh, you guys, if you don't mind going to the chat box, a lot of you have worked with extension. If you can guess the next phrase I'm going to say, I don't know, we'll get you bonus points or something. But when you work with extension, they talk about chemicals and labels. Does anyone have an idea of what I'm about to say? I'll give you a few seconds. Master gardeners, if you're a master gardener. Dang! A plus. Everyone gets an A plus. The label is the law. You have to, oh, you guys. Courtney, I'm getting warm, fuzzy feelings. Look at these guys go. Look at them go. I love it. I love it. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. A plus. Hey, we can do long-term impact. I don't know. There's some reporting thing we do, but we can put that on there. I did want to throw in the thing. So battery acid will kill a dandelion, but that's not its intended use. So please make sure you guys are making sure you're reading that label. The label is the law. Cool. And then if you want more information on herbicide, feel free to reach out to me with that because that's something that we guys have uh, quite a bit of information on. This is just when I'm looking at a herbicide, I'm not looking at the fancy labels or anything. I'm looking at the active ingredients. So it says quinclorac, sulfentrazone, 2,4-D dimethylamine salt. Okay, 2,4-D is going to control that dandelion. The amine salt is what's going to be that less likely to move off site formulation. I'm going to kind of zip through this because I want to get to some other things. Fall is the best time to control dandelion because of the biology, because of how the net movement of nutrients is moving from the leaves down to the root for winter storage. You want to be able to apply in the fall, early fall, to get control of those dandelions. There's nothing wrong with a spring application, but it is belching nutrients from that root. So if you do an application, it's just going to kind of keep growing and it has the possibility to grow out of that application. We're going to keep moving through. Anytime you have an application on your mind to do, the plant needs to be growing. You should not be applying in a drought stressed area. If it's drought stressed, this dandelion, it looks kind of rough, but if you give it some water, I'm pretty sure it would perk up. If you applied herbicide to this, you'd be wasting your money. That picture on the right, because the nutrients are not moving to where the herbicide would be carried to the growing spots or the grow points where the herbicide would take effect. We're going to keep moving. This is just if you guys are homeowners, there's different formulations, ester formulations and amine formulations. If you're a homeowner, I suggest using an amine formulation because it works better when it's warm, has low vapor pressure, and won't, this word here under ester, volatilization, it has less volatilization potential. Esters, that's what our lawn care operators use in the large areas, and they're applying earlier in the year when it's cooler. Here we've got our perennial life cycle, germination, vegetative growth, maybe some bolting in that first year, maybe not, overwintering, and then you have your adult plant. I'm going to skip this next part. There is a product out there that if you apply it in early spring, it won't kill the dandelion, it'll suppress its blooms. I had to think of a reason for this, and I thought to myself, if I was a venue and I just bought the property in the fall and I didn't see any dandelion flowers, and then come May or something, I figure out, well, crap, I do get a flush of dandelion growth. So I'm thinking it's a wedding venue. They know they've got dandelions. They don't want to kill them and have bare spots, but they don't want blooms to show off for the parking area or whatever. So they do have that different ability to, again, this is not, or this is untreated. So this is what it looks like without that Defender application. And this is what it looks like with the Defender application. You can still see the dandelions in there, but if you're just looking for a green surface without the yellow, there are those options. If you look closely, you can see the squares where the dandelion blooms have been suppressed. These are the kind of things that Purdue does with different research and different products because we're not just working with homeowners or just with golf course superintendents. We're trying to make sure we're using our products responsibly so that we're not over applying, under applying, and we're getting the best results that we can. Okay, so a resource for you guys, and you should be getting this when you have your um, follow-up email. The Purdue Turfgrass website has a great bunch of resources. The one we're looking at here, this is just a GDD tracker. This just shows when you can do a spring broadleaf application based on the growing degree days that we talked about earlier. Again, another tool. This is where if you're really getting into the weeds of it, when an amine is appropriate and when an ester is appropriate of that 2,4-D formulation. Okay, I know we're covering a lot. You guys are doing awesome. Um, this turfgrass weeds is another one that we'll cover because when you do apply 2,4-D, always be on lookout for drift. So a drawstring effect with this oak leaf or a cupping. Always be careful when you do applications because you want that to be on your intended target and not on something else. Tomatoes, not happy after a application of herbicide. I'm gonna keep go. I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm skipping over hard water. If you are applying 2,4-D, check your water. You might have to add some stuff to that. Where do I want to say? 17 pounds of ammonium sulfate per 100 gallons of water. Do the formulation. We're going to skip through that as well. But this just shows if I'm applying 2,4-D, you have the non-treated on the left. So nothing was sprayed on the left. The middle plant or the middle specimen there was applied with water that was hard. Who has hard water in Indiana? Everybody has hard water in Indiana. So when I applied with 2,4-D in hard water, those two plants, the non-treated plant on the left and the middle plant, those two look the same. When I add ammonium sulfate, it combats the water hardness, that calcium, and I get better control. So I had to do this in the greenhouse for 3 years just to show, yes, if you have hard water and you want to get rid of your dandelions and you're applying 2,4-D, use ammonium sulfate. This is just showing some of our fall applications versus our spring applications. Fall works much better. Okay, let's take a breath, take a break. Any questions, comments? The rest of the time, I just wanted to go over some dandelions in the culture, talk about other things that you guys maybe have questions on. I can't believe we just filled 45 minutes talking about what some people call a weed, other people call a pollinator. Um, for small scale homeowner application, is using distilled water acceptable? Yes. It should be okay. I like the ammonium sulfate though, because it's more stable. Um, but distilled water, you should be fine because you don't have uh, that calcium cation in solution. So good question on that. Dry granule 2,4-D is fall the best time to apply for that. So anything dry, fall is great. In order for the dry 2,4-D to work, the plant needs to be wet. So apply that on a dewy morning. They did a commercial a while back where it showed like it had a dandelion flower and it showed what looked like a softball, a prill of herbicide slamming into it. That looks good for a commercial, but that doesn't really do anything. One, the flower's already mature, and two, you need to get that herbicide on the leaf, not the flower. So just as long as you make sure it's the dandelion is damp, that works out well. Does bloom suppression slow the spread into a new area? Yes, because you're robbing 1 year of that seed bank. So you're not recharging the seed bank, but that also means there probably is still a seed bank there, if that answers that question. Excuse me, what's my voice there? All right. So we'll move into culture. As was mentioned, the dandelion salad. There's a video of a woman who lived through the Depression, and this was her dandelion salad recipe where she would pick them. They did cut off the root, they did cut off all the flowers, and they washed the heck out of the leaves because they hold on to quite a bit of soil. I guess it'd be dirt at that point. They would soak in water and they would just keep washing and washing. And then she would mix with olive oil, lemon juice, salt, and pepper. So I found that the best dandelion, if you have dandelion seeds and basically spread them in a um, just a tray of soil, if you can trim those, treat them like you would spinach or like a baby lettuce or something, where you cut them off as early as you can and they're not bad. Dandelion wine. So this is from Mary's Recipe by Jerry Uthman. Let's see, 7 cups dandelion petals. So we're just using the petals, your 1 gallon hot water, 1.5 pounds of sugar. Then you got your specific gravity, and then all this. So there are recipes out there. I feel like a lot of regions have different recipes to them because I feel Courtney, the source you used, did they let it sit for a long time? Was it like 6 months or 6 weeks or something?
As far as aging it,
Yes.
um, I'm not sure how long she did, but I was just reading down there at the bottom, it says age 6 months or more, because I was wondering that myself.
And I will say it's got a real pretty color to it, a real golden
Mhm.
color. So, but yeah, there's your dandelion wine. This was a book in Courtney's office when we were working together. I thought it was interesting where the dandelion had the meaning. I guess I should give credit with Jessica Rue. It was just a fun thing that we stumbled on. So with divination, fortune telling, dandelions are associated with wishes and fortune telling. It's customary in many Western cultures to make a wish while blowing out the dandelion puff, dispersing its seeds. More practically, dandelions have been used to predict the weather, as their puffs will stay closed in inclement weather and open when sunny, clear skies are on the way. I think that just has to deal with moisture. They don't like it when it's cold and wet. They need it to be dry so they can move around or float around. Uh, there was something else. Oh, I grew up with a lot of brothers, so they would say, close your eyes and make a wish. And as you go to take in a breath and open your mouth, they shove it in your mouth. So I don't make wishes with dandelions. Cultures, it's in every movie. I looked at this picture on the bottom left, and her dad's probably like, "Why are you spreading all the weeds out? Let's go." Whatever. I said, Sid the Sloth. Will you do an impression for us, Courtney, of Sid the Sloth?
I am not able to do that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I
But these
don't
are
have
just,
that talent.
no, I just wanted to throw these out because with a lot of our stories, with whether it be recipes or in movies, the dandelion's everywhere. So, but Sid, what does he say? Oh, a dandelion. It must be the last one of the season. He's got a lisp or something.
And I knew you would have a good impression of it.
And then I stumbled upon this. I've never seen this movie, like Dandelion Dust, and all I could think of was an allergy flare up with watery eyes and congestion. But when I found some I'm sorry, some different synapses, the dandelion dust, meaning it was symbolizing the scattered fragility and delicate nature of a child's life caught between two families. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. There's a metaphor there. Uh, I also looked into different songs. The ones that have stars by them, I actually listened to the other day. If anyone sings about dandelions, it's really sad. I don't know why, but kind of low-key songs. So again, they are part of pulp culture. And people, I guess, can, relate to them as they are usually part of our childhoods, with all that. Okay. So I'm kind of wrapping up here. I did want to throw out for all those who are here, again, we talked about the dandelion today, which I thought was a great topic. Please, please join us for March 12th. Courtney was able to get clay slaughter from one of our orchards locally. Fruit care. I don't know anyone better. Do you, Courtney? I mean, like, I'm really trying to sell this now because he is so good.
Mhm.
And it would be worth your time to make it. Now, having said that, if you miss it, we will record it. But so we have next month's hot topics. I wanted to throw that out there. Also, if you want to go to an in person hot topics, the Purdue Extension Garden experts do have speaker schedules at the Fort Wayne Home and Garden Show from February 26th to March 1st this year. Uh, I'll be there on Saturday, but we've got some great topics. They've got a gentleman who grows the tallest sunflowers. They've got straw bale gardening. One person's coming and doing worm farming, vermicomposting. So that's just something to throw out there if you're up near the Fort Wayne area. Okay, we've made it. Questions, comments, concerns. What have you guys got?
We have a comment.
Sure.
Dried ground um, dandelion root is sold for a coffee substitution and as medicinal uses.
Which I would like to try that because again, I've never heard about the roots.
Ronald's asking, aren't they the first food for the bees?
Yes, they're one of the first flowers that will open up or mature for them to use. I'm glad you brought that up too, because I had an article from back in like the 70s or the 80s. And this is where the dandelion is so versatile. It has so many people have so many different views on it. There were researchers, I don't believe it was Purdue, but they were researching dandelions in orchards and worried that the dandelions were stealing the bees away from pollinating the orchards to the point where it was detrimental to the orchard use. Now we know that there's way more pollinators out there that can pollinate things. So the more we learn about it, the more we see the diversity of that sort of thing. Side note.
So the next question was, how many different pollinators use the dandelion?
I'm not sure about that. I would say multiple because it is a source of that nectar. I don't have a number. I will write that down. That'll be a question for our friend Tabby down in Vigo County, who is, well, she did a hot topics for us on ants. You want to go see that? It's on our YouTube page. Number of pollinators.
Any consumption of dandelion must be from unsprayed areas. Very
Y-
good point.
Yep, and I think that's one thing where, let's say you have been spraying your yard and you do want to start harvesting, I would give it at least a year, if not two, because those herbicides will metabolize and denature over time. So yes, I would not like someone to go out and harvest dandelions the day that they were sprayed.
They also seem to be the last food source for bees.
Yes, and I meant to bring that up. They have their spring flush, which is the one we see most. A lot of times there'll be a flush in August or September if the conditions are correct. We've been pretty dry. Well, were we dry? If we're dry, they're not going to bloom, but if they have enough water, they're going to be good to go.
What nutrients would dandelions add to compost?
They're high in phosphorus. I say high in phosphorus, there's trace amounts of it. But you got to think that leaf litter is great. And then that root, if you were to dry that root down, that's going to be a lot of good nutrients as well.
Okay.
And then I think I have while we've got you guys here, again, thank you all for joining us. We do have a poll, and every time I do this, I